Hey guys, today I'll be interviewing my friend Wade. He's the author of W.a.d.e Factor. If you want to get his book, it's on Amazon. How you doing, Wade?
Good, Johnny. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Thank you for coming on. Finally, we get to see you and interact with you because we've been trying to manifest. Isn't this right?
Absolutely.
Um, this
We've
is
actually
cool.
had we've actually I think had a couple interviews already so far, yeah?
Yeah, I was gonna say that too. um, this is a free. This is what to the audience. What I'm trying to do is a experiment to be able to see a free flow of exchange of ideas and interviews. Is that okay with you, Wade?
Yeah, I'll do my best, Johnny.
Okay, let's start. Can you introduce yourself to the audience who don't know who you are yet?
Yeah, hi, everybody. I'm Wade Bloodgood. I am the author of W.a.d.e Factors. I'm 42 years old. I'm native to Oregon. Traveled all around the United States. I'm an eBay entrepreneur and online entrepreneur. Basically, that's where I make most of my money. I'm also a survival instructor at Darkwood um, uh, Training and Strategy Institute, and just having fun in life right now. Just a lot of ventures going up and down, and having fun, and that's pretty much it.
No, thank you.
I mean, if
Thank
you
you
really
for
want to know
that.
more about me, heck, it could take hours.
Well, okay. I would like to. Well,
But the
it's gonna this interview is gonna get pretty crazy pretty soon. I'm telling you. But I believe okay. So let's inspire people as you and I are here to like inspire people to uplift them, right? So what is your purpose in life?
Well, the funny thing you asked that because the purpose is, I believe the purpose kind of is always changing in a lot of ways. And today I've actually come to a pretty big reality for myself that a lot of the life that we're living, I believe, is truly just an illusion. What I mean by that is that I believe that part of my purpose is to help people to help them self-develop so they can have more of an inner relationship with themselves. And I believe when we have more of an inner relationship with ourselves, that um, that creates a lot of good things in our life. I believe when we understand who we are and we don't have to pretend to be somebody else, then we don't suffer from all the things that a lot of people in the world suffer from, because we're living the illusion of trying to be somebody that fits in, or somebody that wants to be liked, or sometimes we go to college because our parents want us to be something that maybe we don't want to be, and the next thing you know, we're just living a life that isn't really our own. And that's what I mean about living in an illusion. And when you start to have an inner journey with yourself and you get to know yourself, you start to break through those levels of illusion, the core of who you are. We all have a lot of voices in our some people choose to talk with them, some people choose to ignore them. Some people, there's a lot of voices up in their head, but we all have conversations going on, and that those conversations normally have a couple sides to it, kind of like the devil and the angel on your shoulder.
Right.
There's always this rationalization and this rationalization, and so even within ourselves, we're battling in these a lot of the time, all of it is just truly an illusion. And when you take the inner journey, you start to expose those illusions and you start to see them for what they are, and then you actually can drop those illusions from your. You're still going to run into people and everything's still going to look the same, but the way that you go about things will be completely different. Purpose, and you know what it is to seize that day and take the opportunity to go do all you can with that purpose in that moment. Time we just sit on the couch and we think about what we should be doing or what we do, but we don't do anything. And so that day becomes a lost day. We don't do anything with our purpose. We don't take any steps forward to discover what our purpose might be. And most often what I have discovered in all of that is because I'm living in an illusion. Based on the fact that I'm trying to do a lot of things based on what other people's ideas of the perception of me will be. And the truth is, the fact is that I don't need to care what anybody thinks about me. It doesn't matter what my education level is. It doesn't matter if I don't have an education at all, or if I have plaques on the wall that say that I know something. None of those things matter as far as what your capabilities are as a human. Whether or not you have an education from a schooling system, or you have a degree on the wall that says you have an education, none of those things guarantee that you're going to succeed and achieve greater things in life. And none of those things actually mean that you're going to fail at anything either. Kind of a 50-50 chance whether you're going to win or you're going to lose. And your odds can kind of tilt into your favor when you start to step in the direction of knowing that you can win. And when you know that you can win, you start to generate the energy in your life that attracts more of a winning outcome. And it doesn't mean that you're not going to have days where, you know, let's just say you win 60% of the time and 40% of the time you lose. But if you look at these losses as lessons and not losses, so basically when I lose, it's actually an opportunity to learn. So the word lose, we'll replace it with I win or I learn. Either I'm winning 60% of the time and the other 40% I'm learning. So I don't look at it as a failure. And I believe when we often put names like failure or hard work onto certain things that we say to people or to ourselves, there's been such a deep-rooted definition in civilization of what those words mean. And when you're a failure, you feel like that you're nobody. And you feel like you can't, well, you stop believing. Therefore, you don't have a personal relationship with yourself because you've allowed everybody's opinion outside of yourself to become your reality. And the next thing you know, you've fallen into a place of where you want to do your best and you're trying to do it, but you don't believe in yourself enough to achieve the greater things.
Right. So, but what can they, like, the audience do? Because since we have all these like noise, like all the people trying to like push you into being something that you truly don't want to be, and it's not authentic in a way, right? And that, like, you know, people tell you that education is the or school is the way to be successful, right? So what can you give to the audience to be able to fully express who they are, what they're passionate about, and what can they do about it though?
Well, to be honest with you, just to go along with the last question, it all kind of ties together for me because today and yesterday, a lot of things have been happening for me, and some of them are learning lessons, and some of them are lessons where I'm really winning. But the fact is you have to kind of begin to have a relationship with yourself first. And so what that means is you got to kind of sit down and start to ask yourself these questions. You got to sit down and ask yourself, what do I like to do that doesn't have anything to do with anybody else? I mean, there are a lot of people out there that say this question to ask yourself. If this was your last day to live, what would you do? Or let's just say you had 1 week left to live. What would you do during that week? Besides visiting the loved ones and people that you want to spend time with, But if you got the ability to go out and do something, or what is it that you've been wanting to do for a very long time that you've been putting off because you're doing other things that you think other people want you to do? Or maybe even ask yourself the question, when I was a little kid, what is it that I could do really good, that people could see that I could do really good before anybody ever asked me the question, what do you want to be when you grow up? Because when people asked me when I was a kid, what did I want to be when I grew up? Well, I wanted to be a garbage man. And when they asked me that question, everybody laughed. They go, you want to be a garbage man? And because I don't think back in those days, people looked at garbage men as being a good job to have. But nowadays, if you were a garbage man, it's actually a really good job. And there's a lot of great companies that you could work for. And they pay really good, and it's just a good job. But the reason why I liked a garbage man when I was a kid is because when the truck came down the road and the guy came off and he picked up these big cans that were heavy and he threw them over, there was just something about that kind of attracted to excitement. But I really don't think I wanted to be a garbage man, my purpose or what I want to do, although I'd like to clean up some of the mess going on in the world and stuff. But one of the things for me that I could reflect when I go to the very core of myself, I've always been attracted to water. And I've always been a very, very good fisherman. If people said, I mean, I would say 10 years ago, there were people saying, you should have a YouTube channel and you should show people how to make lures and how to do things with fishing. And I didn't even understand what YouTube was. So I wasn't taking the, I didn't have the entrepreneurial mindset that I have now, where I realized that we can utilize these new things that are in our life to generate money that we love the most. So if you really want to find out what your purpose is, and you really want to find out how you can be more successful in your own personal life, you really have to first down in a room where there is nobody and start to ask yourself a lot of questions. And a lot of these questions are, who am I? And you probably won't know that question. You got to ask yourself, am I good enough? Do I feel worthy? Do I feel like do I love myself? Honest with yourself. And if you are honest with yourself, you may find there's a lot of different things that people will find because everybody has their own personal answer. But for me, when I sat down and asked these questions, I was completely miserable. I did not believe in myself. I had no self-confidence whatsoever. I was depressed. I was miserable. I had anxiety and panic attacks and was just very stressed out all the time. Suicide many times in my life. But when I sat down and asked a lot of these hard questions to myself, the answer was no, I didn't love myself. And no, I didn't feel worthy of achieving greater things. And I felt like the opinions of everybody that was in my life since a kid, all of their negative opinions about me, and I started to behave accordingly. I started to behave negatively. And I started to be I did a lot of bad things in life. I mean, I'm not ashamed to admit it. Have allowed me to go through a process to understand why we do that sometimes. And I was hurting inside because I had a lot of problems that I didn't understand. Because, well, the problems that I didn't understand were coming to light as I started to ask the questions, why am I not worthy? Why can't I be loved? Why can't I achieve greater things? Why do I feel depressed? And when I had to answer these questions, ask themselves these questions, you're going to have your own answer. And when you're honest, there's nobody around that's going to know what you're saying. It's only for you to do. When I started to ask these questions and I answered them honestly, I basically fell down on the floor and I cried. I curled up in a ball like a little baby. And I was a 36-year-old man at that time. I'm 42 years old now. And I basically couldn't believe that I couldn't look myself in the mirror in the eye and tell myself I loved me. I couldn't look myself in the eye and say, Wade, I really care about you and you're a very important person. I tried to do that stuff, but it hurt so bad to say it because I couldn't accept that as the truth. And that's what's happening to a lot of us. But I was on a very extreme magnitude of it. I think a lot of us are actually living in that level of atmosphere within ourselves. But it's just too, it's too frightful to go inward. It's very easy to allow ourselves to focus on the external things that are going on outside of ourselves, because I believe that at some point way back in time, the people that were in control or that understood the ideas of vibration and understood how the laws of the universe work and how God works and stuff like that, that they realized that they use certain tactics because they realize that people that don't understand how to work that stuff for yourself, they realize if they create for you to follow, that most often we're more like sheep, and we would more likely be led around by people following some story that somebody told us. But once you take the time to stop listening to everybody else's story and you decide to say, well, what story do I want to tell for myself? What story do I want to live? And first and foremost, what story do I believe to be true right now? And if you find for yourself that the story that you're telling yourself is that I'm not good enough for this, or I can't make that much money, or I'm not educated, you'll find, if you listen, you'll find that you're creating excuses. I call it our justified reasoning. We try to reason this justification of why we can't do something, and often it leads to because somebody else said that we couldn't. And maybe there's, people say, well, you didn't have the education to do that. And the truth is that's just based off their opinion, and that's based off of maybe their experience. And the truth is each individual has the ability to create any experience that they want to create. And it's up to you to be in control of that. And the only way to be able to control that stuff is first to be able to get to know yourself very well. And so you have to have an inner relationship with yourself, and you have to turn off this external world. Now, I understand that we're utilizing this to communicate, and I realize that I use online stuff to make money, and that we're utilizing this to communicate with a lot of people through the world and touch lives and stuff like that, and help people change from a negative life to a positive life. But I used to get on the internet all the time, and Facebook and all the different avenues. And I'm not saying that I don't do that now, but I'm doing it less and less and less. I'm not utilizing these platforms to just spin my wheels. I'm not just utilizing it to turn on the radio for something to be going on. I'm literally trying to utilize this social media and to utilize this technology so I can touch more lives, but I can also further my experience within the entire world. And I feel like if I can tune into these social medias and not watch cat videos and not spend my time having conversations about nonsense that I have absolutely no control over, like who's president or who's not president, or where do you go to school or where you don't go to school, or what neighborhood you live in or what neighborhood you don't live in. I don't have any control over any of those things. But what I can do is take control of what's going on in my life. And when I do this, now that gives me the power to take control of where I'm going. And I'm not wasting and spending my time 3 or 4 hours watching television, or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 hours or more just on Facebook, not doing anything.
But
I feel.
But
go ahead.
Sorry, because I want to interrupt a little bit. But here's the thing, though. But you do agree that most people do waste their life on Facebook and they're not really being productive, and they think they are by using this. I believe that Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube are, like you said, are a tool to be able to get our message out there and help many people. But the problem with, you know, the general population, they're using it to socialize, but they waste so much time instead of, like, they could have, like, achieved something with themselves, find the purpose, find their meaning in life. What do you think about that?
I completely agree 100%, and I have to catch myself from doing the exact same thing they do. And what I've realized for myself was, when it comes to the social media, a lot of people are utilizing it. It's almost like commercial break. I'm watching the television show, and now it's time for a break on the commercial. And what do we do during the commercial? We just kind of do nothing. We find little things to do to waste our time until the show comes back on. And what we do is a lot of people, we're tuning in and we're using these beautiful ways to communicate with the world, and we can spread any message that we want to.
Right.
But we get on there and we go, oh my God, you know what happened today at work, Sally and Johnny and anybody that will listen. And what we find is that we'll find people that are just like us, and we'll attract those type of people that go, oh, I completely understand where you're coming from. My boss is a jerk too. Do you know what's going on at my job? And now me and you, we can go back and forth for hours talking about how we hate our job. But instead, we both could also take the time to say, wait a minute, I could utilize this same opportunity to talk about my job that I dislike. But let me talk about the moments at my job that I didn't like today. But let's also talk about the positives of these things. What is it about my job that I do like? Instead of talking 8 hours about the thing that happened at work for 10 minutes, and then I talked about it for 8 hours, sometimes days later, you're still telling the story, days later. So you've taken something that's happened at work for 5 minutes, and now it becomes an everyday episode for you. I mean, you're telling the story. Now you go to work, and you can't stand to look at Wade, because there's Wade again. And remember the other day, he made me mad. Or he said something, and it contradicts what I thought it should be. And now I'm upset about that. And we focus as a society on all of these we nitpick at every little negative thing. And we actually really, I believe, have good intention. I think that we say to ourselves, well, if I complain about it enough and we all complain together, maybe something will change. But the truth is guys, complaining never changed anything. All it really does is create a lot of stress for everybody that has to listen to all of that complaining. Because the truth is if they had any power to do something about it, they would do something about it, so they didn't have to listen to you complain anymore. And then number two, if you had the power to actually do something about it as well, and you felt that you actually did, I don't think that you would complain either. I think what you would do is you would actually offer solution instead of bitching and complaining. Why are they doing this? I don't like that. I hate them, or I love them. It really doesn't matter what side you're on. Sometimes we get so on one side that we don't have a balance. And the truth is we're very, very off balance when it comes to hyper focusing on all the negative stuff. And we're utilizing, you know, the cool thing about this type of stuff right here is we could really spend the day uplifting everybody that comes into contact with us. If you go to my Facebook page and you go to my group page, a lot of people share a lot of different stuff on there. But if you look at what I share, it's all uplifting, positive, or motivating stuff to some sort or another. It's encouraging, motivating, inspiring, something to that magnitude. But I didn't used to do that. I used to get on like everybody else, and I used to complain, and I used to use it as like going to therapy. Like I was sitting on a couch talking to a counselor, and I would just throw up all of my problems to the world. And I had so many people that could relate to me. I had so many friends. And then as I started to get positive, I noticed that all my old friends, they're not in my friend group anymore. I have new friends.
Wait, can we get into this touch of friend zone for a second? Not friend zone, but like friends, because you know you and I we connected because we resonate with each other, right? and we understand, we connect at a level as, you know, we vibe with each other. And can you explain to the audience what you just said? Because I know that this is a very important subject. Because we sometimes we don't let go of our old friend, but they're usually holding our us back, and they always, like, you know, pull us down. And how can we uh do we push them aside? What do we actually do? Because, you know, sometimes they complain a lot. Usually I see them, they complain, but they usually don't do anything about it. What's your solution for that?
Well, what I've done in my personal life is this. I even had to do it not just with friends, but I had to do it with family. And sometimes it's so hard to do because you have other friends or other family members saying, you can't do that. You can't shut people out of your life. But what I found was, here's an easy way to just get people out of your life that aren't supposed to be there. And it doesn't mean that you're not their, it doesn't mean that you're not their friend, and it doesn't mean that you don't care about them. It doesn't mean that you don't love them, with friends and family. But what I did was this. I distanced myself from everybody, and I spent more time going on an inner journey to understand who I was. Also, when it came to social media, most of those friends that were negative, I would also engage in the conversation. So I would entertain the conversations. So I became a part of it. I became part of the problem. Because even though I was even though I was in the conversation, most often I was trying to give helpful, like in the recent months, you know, I try to give people good advice. When I see them being negative and I see people saying bad things and things that are out of their control, and I realize and I know that they can't do anything about these things, I don't ask, do they want my advice? I just give them my advice. And the truth is they don't ever take any of that advice. And I can tell because you look at their post 10 minutes later, or the next day later, or a week later, or a month later, and they're still on the negative side of things. Blaming somebody else for something. They still think somebody else is to blame for all the problems in their life.
Right.
They can't
But
stop focusing on that.
right.
So what?
So how sorry. How can we, like, find, like, what can we do as a whole? Because, you know, you have friends that are negative. Like, we met on a good level. So, like, are there support online? That's what I'm trying to say to the audience. I know you. I know you know.
Yeah, actually, there's so much support online, but the key is all of these old friends and old family members. Once you go on an inner journey and you begin to change, these people, you don't ever have to say anything to them. You don't have to say, look, I need some time away from you. You don't have to defriend them on Facebook. What I've noticed is most people, they'll defriend you and you won't even realize they're gone. You just won't see their posts showing up anymore because they can't take your positivity, or they just don't believe in the things that you're saying. They say, no, I have to blame somebody else. You don't understand my parents. You don't understand my ex-husband. You don't understand what I'm going through at work. And the truth is yes, I do understand. But the fact is you're deciding to spend all your time focusing on the negative. So I decided to be positive. Now I resonate and vibrate in a more positive vibration. That attracts people like you into my life that are doing the same thing. And now my friend list actually on Facebook is bigger than it's ever been before. And I got news feeds of people that are good, positive people. My news feeds are people that are positive as well. They're posting positive things. And so now the world that I live in, now there's people that I know on Facebook that every day it's just like going to a bad news station. And they show up every day and it's like, it's all just negative news, and it's all negative. And they're sharing links to negative news. They're sharing links about every bad thing that ever happened in the world. They're sharing links about everything that can poison your body. And the meanwhile, they have no positive solution for these things. And they live in a world, their world, they live in the same world you and I do, but they basically have decided to focus on everything that's negative. And a lot of these people are really suffering from a lot of problems. They got a lot of mental issues. They've contracted a lot of physical health issues. They're very disconnected spiritually, which means they don't really have any belief systems that they really stand by, that you can observe them and you can tell, well, yeah, they really live by the rules of being whatever the belief is. I don't want to put any names on it, but at the end of the day, I believe that when you start to do this work with yourself, you create this space that we can't see within the world that we control. And what happens is a lot of the negative people, they exit that because they can't handle the positive vibrations.
Oh, right, right. I
They
agree with
so they just automatically kind of leave, and they're not mad at you either. They just don't understand why you're so darn positive all the time.
that.
And there's a lot of people that, and it doesn't mean that I don't have negative days, and it doesn't mean that I can't be negative, but I don't choose to just live there all the time. And I really do try to put a positive spin on everything. And I admit sometimes it takes, I have to practice a little bit harder around certain people because their negativity, sometimes I decide to just join the crowd because it's easier to do. It's easier for me to just be negative than try to talk them into being positive. But I realize for myself too, it's okay for me to have boundaries and to walk away from that crowd. I don't have to join them if I can't beat them. I just say, well, I wish you all the best. I'm going to go over here now. And when I leave, I don't ever have to be mean to anybody. I don't have to say you guys are wrong. If you choose to live in a negative place and that's how you want to see the world, that's up to you. But I don't really want to hang out with you if that's who you want to be. And I know when I was negative, a lot of people didn't want to hang out with that person either. So that's proof to me that people really don't want to be around the negative person. They don't want to be around the person that's always criticizing what's going on, or we always see what's wrong with the world and we want to talk about the drama. And when you stop giving that, entertaining that, when you stop, like a lot of people, I used to give them advice. Well, I don't give hardly anybody I give advice, because you know what? Those people I had given advice so much already, they don't want that advice. And I was never listening. I just said, well, if I keep giving them the advice, they'll eventually hear it. But basically what they were saying is, why don't you just keep hitting your head on a concrete wall? I have chosen beliefs and this is the way I'm going to live. And so that's okay if they want to live in misery and they can't understand why they're depressed and they can't understand why they're not more successful. Everything in my life has changed because I took an inner journey. And now I make more money. All good things are working out for me. And even when I'm not winning, when I'm losing, I'm actually just learning.
Right.
And it's a cool process that if everybody understands this process, you'll understand that your world will expand that you're living in right now. And you'll have friends like me and Johnny. I've got so many friends right now from around the world. I've got so many friends from the UK and Australia and just different places that I haven't even been to. But we're all supporting each other in the bigger cause of just living a more positive, happy life, and a more productive life, and a more fruitful life. And for some of us, that means more money. And for some of us, it means more peace of mind. It means I'm going to quit my job that makes me all of this money, because the money isn't better. We can be very rich and be completely miserable. And let me tell you, a lot of rich people that have all the money that we want, the people that don't have that money or feel that they don't have that money, those people a lot of these people just wish they didn't have the money. It's not fixing their problems. They're still sick. They still have a problem with chemicals. They may still be in a divorce. Their wife may cheated on them. Their husband still may have cheated on them. Their kids may still get bad grades in school. You might have went out and rode your bike and fell off of your bike. Things are going to happen no matter what. Money can't protect you. Money isn't like an armored shield that you can put on and nothing can touch you and you're immortal. You're just like everybody else. You just got a little bit more money. So that does offer a cushion of what we all want, like a comfortable cushion in a world that we live today, because the world has been created for us now that we need money to pay our bills and we need money to survive. But if you want more money and you want to survive and be more thriving in the surviving that you're doing, I recommend everybody to take the inside journey, because this is going to answer all of your questions. I mean, I could answer questions for people all day and you could hear them, but you could also go online and listen to Tony Robbins. And I mean, heck, there is a long list. Bob Proctor, you know, Johnny, there's a long list of people that are all about self-development. There's people out there like Oprah Winfrey that have like her own channel where she's talking to some of these amazing people that understand life on a much bigger level than most of us understand. And they break it down on such a simplistic level for us to understand. But the truth is most of us have to realize that we've been living a certain way since we were born into a world that already was giving us patterns.
Are you saying that we're living a lie? Because most people are
We're living a mirage, an illusion.
Right, right. I do agree with you. I see. This is why we resonate so much. I believe the thing that you believe because sometimes I feel sad that because if you look at most people, because I hear what you're saying in this talk, like they have so much like potential. They have so much gift, like to give to the world. Because you create this book and you have a gift within you and you wrote it and you have like this is amazing. Like I wish more people would be able to find an inner light that we have found and to be able to express it within these mediums. But I do have well, actually, a while back there was I was writing on something, and you said you believe in past life. I told you this was going to be crazy. So you believe in past life. So can you explain that?
Well, yeah, and I do understand where you were coming from on there because you had mentioned something about Gary Vee saying you only have one life to live. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, don't sit on the couch and waste your fucking time. You know what I mean? And I agree with Gary Vee on so many levels. I mean, the guy is not joking around. I mean, we have such a short amount of time to live right now in this particular life that you young, you have more time to sit around than maybe us older. But if you don't sit around, I don't care what age you are. If you get up off your butt when you're 12 years old and you start on the grind right now, or you start heading in one direction and you put your energy into it, by the time you're my age, you'll be like the master at that. You'd already made millions of dollars in that and moved on. Now, what I mean about living many lives, I do believe in reincarnation, and I do believe that we live many lives in a lot of ways. But I also believe within this particular life right now, we live more than one life. Well, I lived a life as a baby once. I came out of my mom. People had to feed me. People had to help me learn to walk. They had to dress me. They had to bathe me. That was a whole nother life. I ain't living that life now. I can do all that stuff on my own. When I was a teenager, I mean, my skin was younger. I was able to do certain things because my body felt different. I still depended on my parents in a lot of ways because I was a teenager and I didn't really understand how to take care of myself. And so there's many of different lives. And the beautiful is too, I've met people that have. I know a woman named Sarah that she was a hippie with dreadlocks, and she was kind of bi-curious in her sexuality, and she just dated women for a long time, and then she started to date men again, and then she kind of dated both, and then she stopped dating women altogether and just decided to date a man, and then she cut her dreadlocks off and she was a vegetarian, and she didn't believe in eating meat and was kind of going in the vegan route. And then maybe after 3 or 4 years of devoting her life into that type of understanding, she decided to move to a different state and went to college to take some classes about some other things. And she met a man, and that man was a hunter, and he explained to her about hunting and eating meat. And before you know it, she was no longer a vegetarian or a vegan, and she understood a broader spectrum of belief and perspective. And then she was married and had 3 kids and never planned to ever have children. And then she's got divorced, and she was believed in like kind of more like a hippie, believed in like, Buddha and all of this. And now she just believes in Jesus Christ, and she's a Christian.
Whoa,
and
that's
she
a good job.
do drugs, and she doesn't do any of these things. And the fact is if you look at just her as an example, in her own life, she has been this person, this person, this person, this person, this person, this person. And the cool thing about her is she's just trying it all out. She says, hey, look, I'm going to try to be a Christian and I'm going to see what that's about. And she devotes herself to it all. She gives herself 100% to it. And, maybe in a few years, she might say, well, I've learned a lot from that experience. And now I decided I'm going to do this in life. But the beautiful thing is she's gathering so much more than most of us that read. I mean, you can read books, you can watch movies, but you can't learn anything better than actually experiencing things. And in life, sometimes when we don't understand stuff like being a vegetarian or a vegan or being a meat eater, for some people, they don't understand it, or being a Christian or being a hippie, smoking pot or whatever. A lot of people might not understand these things, right? But the truth is if you haven't experienced or lived these things, you're only judging it from, I believe, a delusional standpoint. A place of an illusion. You think you know what it's about. You think you know what's going on, but you've never experienced it. And you're really only basing something that you've never experienced off the judgment of either society or the belief system of your family most often. We normally kind of believe whatever our family believes. So let's just, for instance, I've got a lot of Christians in my family and they're against homosexuality. They just believe that God doesn't make us to do that. But then when you look at nature and stuff, like this goes on in nature, like in so many different species. And I'm not saying that I agree or disagree with anything. I think it's up to each individual to make their choice. But if I came from a family that says homosexuality is wrong, and then in life I go out into the world and I'm confronted with people that have a different sexuality, and I don't understand what any of this even means, and I automatically judge them with, most likely, if I'm a Christian, I should be judging them with love. But honestly, most of us judge with hate. And so it doesn't matter if it's about sexuality or if it's your color or if it's your belief or if it's the certain crowd you decide to hang around. Most often we're reacting based off somebody else's ideas, not our own. And that, once again, is also living an illusion. That's not real either. That's a lie too. Because it's not really our truth. It's somebody else's truth that we said, oh, okay, I'll accept that as the truth for myself. But what do I really know about it? And the truth is I don't know anything about it. And here's the thing. There's plenty of things in life that I'll never know anything about because I choose not to experience those things. Like, for instance, let's just say if it was a job, like if a welder or a mechanic or a firefighter, I don't mind like watching TV shows where people weld stuff, and I don't mind watching TV shows or real shows about firefighters, but I'm never going to engage in that in my own life. Why? Because it's something that I just don't have an interest in, and I'm not going to go out and seek those things just because. So it's not like I'm using these different analogies because sometimes when you use like sexuality as an analogy, people kind of get a little bit thrown off and they want to start to defend things or talk about different things. But the fact is what I'm just trying to say is there's just so many different things going on in the world that we judge people about, and that is really holding me down. There's a lot of things that I don't agree with in this world, but that doesn't mean that I have to try that stuff to understand it or it with hate because I'm not it. I don't have to just because people like to be welders. I don't have to say, well, I don't. Or let's just say if you're a different color, if you're black, just because I don't understand black or I've never been black doesn't mean I have to dislike black people. Just because somebody's a Mexican and they may have been born in America or they may have been born in Mexico, I don't have to judge these people from where they're from or based off of their ethnicity because I don't know what that means. I've never experienced it. So I say, and so I just start to, we always judge in such a demeaning way. I mean, really, when you judge people, you cause so much more damage to yourself. And then you know what you actually do too? Not only are you hurting yourself, but you're hurting your fellow human being that doesn't, most of us are already hurting anyway from something. And the last thing we need is for us to be hurting each other, you know?
Yeah, I do agree with that. That's really deep. Thank you.
I may,
Thank you for
I
making.
may have got off track a little bit.
Yeah, I know. It's okay. It's okay. I'm just listening. Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, you were right. But then again, when you said that you will never experience, but I would say, would you want to experience aliens? Do you believe in aliens?
Do I believe in what?
Aliens.
Aliens?
Yeah.
Well, the truth is I've kind of had a theory for a long time going on here. And it's something I've told my friends way back in the day, but I think there's so many variety of human beings. It must be all came from one place on this earth. Like a lot of, because they found the oldest human being in Africa, they said that we all come from Africa. And, you know, if you were a Christian, they say we all came from Adam and Eve. And Adam and Eve had 5 sons. So that makes no sense unless we're all ancestral. It would just, the inbreeding would just be too crazy. And the fact is there's too much diversity, my friend. There's just too much diversity. And so I believe all subspecies of some than we understand, because we came so long ago and we've gone through so many evolutionary stages. Really connect with our historical origin. We don't know our true ancestral. We don't really understand that connection, because the truth is here's what I believe. It's just so, it's so infinite. It's so infinite, the possibilities, that it's too hard for us to understand or handle. So it's just easy for a lot of us to say maybe these things are just theories. But for myself, it's hard to say that. It's hard for me to deny that this stuff is real, because I mean, if you just look around, I mean, I think are aliens. I mean, if creatures that are some of the animals that are on the planet and all the diversity, there's so much diversity. And all of this evolved from, like, too hard to explain. But do I believe in aliens? I do believe in aliens, and I think that we are aliens. I believe that we are aliens, you know. I think, have we made the contact that, like, everybody's like looking for, that we see in the movies at this point? I think maybe it's maybe a little bit more on the lines of Men in Black, a little bit more like Men in Black, you know what I mean? Like, I think, you know, we could be walking around in these suits, but the truth is this is something. See, you asked me something earlier about purpose, and it all kind of ties into this too a little bit. But
How so? Whoa. How so? Really? Okay, I'm curious. Now you got me curious on this way. Okay, go ahead. Tell
well,
me.
I've been doing things for all the wrong reasons in life. I've been doing it to please other people. I've been doing it because of other things. But within the past couple days, I realize more and more what my purpose really is and what I need to be doing with myself. And so that means I really almost have to stop the direction that I'm going in, and I need to head into a completely other direction. Although I'm bringing self-development with me, and I'm bringing physical training with me, because I'm very passionate about wanting people to focus on self-development and to treat our bodies better, you know. Mind, body, and spirit is kind of what I'm about. But today, when I was in the store, I kind of moment, and I made a video that I haven't posted yet about it, but it's almost like I was caught. It was almost like the system was glitching for a minute. Like we were on the computer and it froze up for a second, but just a second. I mean, like a split second. Like even not even a second would be too long. I mean, it was just like, bzz. I mean, even that was too long. And all of a sudden, but during that very like millisecond, I just realized it just right then. I was like, I'm in the fucking Matrix, man. I'm in like this illusion. And I know that I'm in the store right now and I'm buying dog food for my dog and I'm buying a couple things for myself to eat at the house, but something about this isn't real. I'm just going through the motions and it seems very, very real. And I'm here and everything is very real. I'm knocking on this, I'm knocking on this. It's all very solid real, but I believe it's real. So it's real. It's real as can be. And I've accepted this reality full on 100%. But the truth is I think that this reality is a little bit more, here's what I believe. And more I'm believing this, and this might make me to be crazy, but I think we're living in a virtual reality. I think that we're in some sort of virtual creation. Okay, not all of it is a virtual creation. I think like nature and animals and things that are there that even when we're not there, I believe that they're out there still going on. And so I guess even within that theory alone, we're only tuned into the reality that we're vibrationally within communication with. But so today, the reality I realized, I'm in the store and I'm doing all this shopping, but I felt like I was in a video game. But for only a second. And I realized in that second that this is all an illusion. And I said, what the heck am I doing here? Well, I'm buying dog food. And I'm just like, and it just felt completely strange because I'm looking around and I realize that everybody else doesn't realize what I know to be the truth, that this isn't real at all. And the only reason that it's going on is because we've allowed it to be this way. We've allowed it to be. And so it's just like, it loves us to death. The virtual creation that's been created for us, it loves us because we give it so much attention and we can't even tell that it's not real. And you know what I love about technology is that we have virtual reality video games now in glasses you can put on your head, and you watch people on videos that have these things on and they're sitting in a chair going, whoa, whoa, whoa. They're totally reacting to something that they get to see with their eyeballs because they think that it's real. But the fact is they're sitting in a chair with a room of 20 other people that don't have that on, and they're laughing at them going, look at them. And so the truth is that's what I think is going on a bigger scale. I think they found a way to keep most of us just kind of chasing our tails around. That way we never take the time to do an inner journey, and we just become a sheep. We just tune into the radio, we tune into the TV. If the TV says it's going to rain, it rains, we believe it. If the radio says, if the radio is just pumping nonsense music, we just listen to it and we dance the night away, and we lose a moment of our own life that we could have created music, or we could have been the composer of our own life, but we've allowed people to play a song that they play 100 times a day because somebody else said, I'm going to compose a song and be a creator of my own life. And we're tuning in and they want us to because we become the sheep. Now it's people like you and I that say, well, wait a minute. There's got to be more to this. So now we start to investigate. And in the investigation, we start to discover a lot of different things that other people have discovered too. And that starts to say, well, man, because see, I don't read a lot of books, Johnny. I don't really tune into the outside world as much as I think a lot of other people do. I really don't gather a whole lot of information on other things that are going on, but I'm experiencing life. And then when I go and I start to challenge my personal experience, what I find is, wow, there's other people out here that have experienced similar or the same thing that I have. And they have drawn the same conclusion or a similar conclusion that I have in the experience. And so we're all out here kind of being guinea pigs in the experience of our own life.
Right. Let me put into my the only reason that I used to hate books, right? It's because I hear a lot of my peers hate reading books, right? But between 2013, I went from 2011 to 2013, I went through what they call it the dark night of the soul, meaning that my soul, my old self was dying because it didn't resonate with the world that we thought it would be. So what happened is, before I actually read all these books, it was actually a journey that I went through with experience. And then after that, it started with Think and Grow Rich, and then the power of the subconscious mind, actually. And then because I was experiencing synchronicity, coincidence, and somehow I can like control like the universe, and I was experiencing what's happening to me, and I was becoming aware of who I am truly am within. I know that that we have a power within us that, and we can vibrate at a higher level that we can somehow pull the reality to us. It's just that the reality that most people live in is like unconscious. That's the thing.
It's easy to live in that unconscious state of mind, but I'll tell you, when it's so easy that it's a nightmare to live in, though. That's what I discovered. It's like, if I allow the outside world to think for me, and I allow the news to stress me out because what they're reporting, and a lot of time they're already reporting what has already happened. They're already reporting that the bad news has already happened and passed me by. It's not like the news gets on and says, we want you to know in 24 hours there's going to be a shooting in Times Square. Because if anybody knew that there was going to be a shooting coming up, nobody would be in Times Square. Maybe just the guy with the gun, and he'd be easy to capture. You know what I mean? But the truth is, they report the bad news, and then we all tune into the bad news. And now here we are in that reality for weeks on end, worrying about, what if that happened to me? Or what if this happens to my family? And now they've got us so caught up in being fearful that they've got us in control. They've got us in control because they realize that the power is when you start to die as a person and become somebody else, because now, and the only way to do that is to become conscious. The only way for you to die off who you are now is to go through a process. And for everybody, it may be different. And the cool thing is we all should share what our processes are with each other, of how we all got from where it was a lot worse for us, self-admittedly, and what steps did we take to get better? Because each one of our stories has similarities of the things that we're doing, but there's also other steps that some people are doing that others aren't, that could be helpful to all these other people.
Right.
And if we continue to share the information, we're actually co-creating on the leading edge of things that the world has never even experienced before. And when you're living a life like that, it's so exciting if you look at it that way, because everything is brand new all the time. And when you do that, I don't have time to be caught up with the bad news. I don't have time. I'm sorry that somebody shot up Times Square. I'm sorry that there was a bombing. I'm sorry that there was a car crash and somebody died from a drunk driver. I mean, I've had friends. I mean, I've experienced all of those things. I've had people die and all of those things. And I understand that it's hard for us to let go of these stories and to move forward. But the truth is this isn't happening to me. And it doesn't mean I don't have compassion for people that are living, that have these things that happen to them. But the truth is the more I live in the moment of my life of what's really going on, I have an absolutely fantastic life. My rent is paid. I've got electricity. I've got heat. I've got water. I've got a fridge to put food in. I've got clothes on my back. I've got a vehicle. I mean, I'm completely super wealthy and super prosperous. Now, people could check my bank account right now, and they said, well, you only have $221 in your bank account, Wade. And I say, yeah, I know, but more money's coming. And the truth is all my bills are paid, and you guys are measuring being rich the wrong way. And when you measure your riches and your financial status by the money that you have in the bank, I promise you, the more poor you're going to be. If that makes any sense. Like the more that I relish in the wealthy things that I have that are very simple, it seems like money comes to my life very easy. It seems like the bad news becomes less and less and less. And it doesn't mean that the world doesn't have bad things going on it, but I'm just not a part of it. I don't add to the energy of it. I'm not a barrier that creates problems for it. And I'm actually more of a solution to the problem. And a lot of people say, oh, so you just ignore what's going on and you think that the problem's going to go away. What I'm doing is I'm tending to my own vibrational energy. And if everybody tended to their own vibrational energy, this stuff wouldn't even be going on. Be having wars. People would realize that being greedy and mistreating the nature and Mother Earth and doing it for greed and for money, they wouldn't do it. They would just stop doing it. They would realize that there's so many other ways and there's so many other possibilities, just like Nikola Tesla. I mean, that guy knew how to take energy out of the air. He was trying to explain to everybody in his own ways, and he was understanding more and more as he went into this that energy's free. We could charge our vehicles and we don't have to dig up the world. We don't have to charge people all this money to pull up to get gasoline every day. But the reason why we do it is because of greed. And if we all were to tend our own vibrational energy and we had an interconnection that didn't have anything to do with money and the greed, we would end up having a spiritual connection with ourselves, or we would have an authentic connection with ourselves. And people would just, they wouldn't be able to do it. Like for instance, I used to do a lot of bad things on a regular basis. I used to sell drugs on a regular basis back in the day. But when I started to change as a human being and I got myself off of those drugs and I realized why was I doing these things, I could never do that again to anybody. I could never sell drugs to somebody knowing how bad it can screw up their life. And then also anybody that tries to offer me drugs, I'm instantly like, first I'm insulted. I'm like, how dare you offer me poisons? Don't you know what those things will do to your life? But at the same time, I realize I used to be those people, and I have to stand back in those shoes with compassion and empathy and say, the reason why these people are the way that they are right now is because they are unconscious. And they just have not chosen to be conscious. And a lot of people will argue, unconscious, what do you mean? I'm having a conversation with you right now. They don't even understand the meaning between conscious and unconscious. A lot of people think unconscious means if I punch you in the head and you're knocked out cold on the ground. Well, he's unconscious. But we can walk around all day and be talking to people all day and be completely unconscious. And you know what that is? A lot of people I know are preparing for what they call the zombie apocalypse. And what I tell a lot of these people is, you are in the zombie apocalypse. That's the unconscious people wandering around right now. It's the living dead. They wander around all day. And most of these people that are preparing for the zombie apocalypse, they themselves too don't even realize they are a fucking zombie as well. They're so fucking unconscious and they're so tuned the fuck in to the world's coming to an end and I got to prepare for some bullshit that honestly is bad to focus on, because you know what that's going to create? That's going to create revolutionary war in our own country. We're going to be fighting amongst each other. We're going to be shooting at each other, a neighbor against a neighbor. And we're going to be focused on, oh, there's a Mexican, there's a black guy, it's going to be bad fucking news for everybody. And all I got to say is I don't want to be a part of it. And if those people can hear what I'm saying, I'm telling you, like, being a zombie and being part of the zombie apocalypse, it's alive and well going on. And you got to realize it's a state of consciousness. And for you, you got to ask yourself, if you want to wake up and you want to achieve a greater life, or you want to find out what your purpose is, you have to start to try to understand, what does this actually mean? What does conscious and unconscious mean? Now, I know that the world has given me a definition to what that looks like and what it should look like, but there's something else going on here, and I need to understand it, because if you don't really understand what consciousness is and unconsciousness is, you can't really do anything about it. you kind of become helpless. And then the puppet masters, the people that create a bunch of frequencies, you're basically their bitch.
Ouch, man.
They
Ouch.
they own they
That's
they own
harsh.
you.
That's harsh,
It's harsh.
man.
It is harsh.
Oh,
Hey, trust
man.
me, they owned me for years, Johnny. They owned me for years, man.
So did I. So did I. They, you know what they do though? You know what's funny though? They brainwash you in believing these things, man. Like you were right though. They like I can see people. They are a victim of they are a victim of their own mind. They create that out of their own mind because their own mind created their hell or a heaven, right? And you know what I do usually? I usually sit back and observe people, right? And I was like, wow, they are like you said, a zombie, but more like I was thinking back when you were talking about the Matrix, right? And then you say it was a kind of like a what was it, video games or like
Yeah,
a
it seemed like
virtual reality, virtual. There you go. And I was listening. Maybe it could be like a simulation, but then I was thinking, you know what? These people that are zombie and unconscious, you know what they like? They have so much power that they can even like create their own reality. But their belief, their unconscious is creating their reality for them.
that's true. And it's funny you said the word simulation because virtual reality wasn't the word I used. I felt like I was in some sort of simulator. I was
Really?
like just being simulated. I mean, it's just like that movie with Jim Carrey that was in or whatever. It's like the true. I'm not sure if that's the right one, but it's just like every day is almost like the same day, and he starts to realize, like, wait a minute here, something ain't
I
right
don't
here. Well, it just seems like we're like living in this. Yeah, it just seems like for a moment there, it's like I was in the simulator, and the simulator or the virtual reality that was on my face, even though I'm not wearing a mask. You know what I mean? That's the fucking weird part about it. Here I am, and this is kind of where it makes me look like I might be crazy. You know what I'm saying? And I hate to have to fucking say it, but the truth is like it was like it was like so quick of a glitch. It was just like, and it was like what? And then I really felt like I wasn't like everybody else. I just felt like everybody just didn't even recognize what I noticed. That's what it was. It wasn't that I was different than them. It's just like I just noticed that nobody noticed the glitch. It was just so fast that nobody was because listen, I would like to say that I'm super conscious and I'm totally tuned in all the time, but the fact is you know, uh, I'm just aware and I observe things that a lot of people don't. And so because of that, I'm picking up on these little subtle things going on that have drawn me to the conclusion that this is possibly a simulation going on. And honestly, that's what made me come back home and go, purpose. Like if you're going to be spending your time in some simulation or some sort of virtual reality of whatever the fuck it is, what would you like to be doing while you're here? So I said, man, I want to be fishing and I want to take people fishing. And I'm going to move from where I'm at, and I'm literally going to move back across the state down into Florida again. So I'm going to change my life in the next couple months. I'm literally going to pack up my house. I'm going to move based off what I feel. I feel inside it's the right thing to do. I'm going to go down there and I'm going to make a business to do with fishing, self-development, physical fitness. And I'm going to find a way to tie it all in. I'm going to find a way to tie it in together. And I'm going to basically be taking people fishing on the week, during the week, and during the daytime. And then at night, I'm going to do a lot of classes and seminars and things that have to do with, some of them will have to do with fishing and how to fish and do stuff. And others will have to do with self-development classes. And then I hope to gather clients that want me to help to be there for them as an advisor in their life when they need somebody that to help them, give them a little bit different perspective or insight. And then to pick up clients that are basically wanting physical fitness, that want somebody that can call them up and encourage them to do a positive thing for their life. and in the end, kind of help everybody find their personal purpose. You know, there's so many processes and stages of layers of ourself that we have to go through, that we have to like kill off and die. Of myself that I had to take over and like literally shoot that W.a.d.e in the head and bury him in the ground and say, he doesn't exist anymore. I have to let him go and have to get rid of that person, because that person was never really who I was in the first place. And if I can start to peel back these layers that people have had built up in their life, and it's not their fault, we're just born into the bullshit. Well, now when we peel back these layers, now you can start to hear things that you're saying, that Tony Robbins is saying, that Oprah's saying, that Gary V is saying. Now we can start to understand what these people are saying. And we can take that information and we can go do something with it. A lot of these people that are asking Gary V all these questions, he gives them an answer and they still go right back and don't do shit, because they have no idea what the fuck he's talking about.
Right. It's because they here's what fascinated me. For me, I do take I do take a lot of action, and I take massive action. That's where I can like my whole story is, that's where I get the author to the interview. But the thing is, I have to overcome my fear, and because some of these authors are really up there, you know, and I was afraid, you know, it was the fear. But for those, I don't know, for some odd reason, you know, most of the people, when they take advice, they don't take action. But there are a select few who do take action. That's I'm interested in, right? But I would like to ask you, since we're talking about people, there are those people who take action, you know, like you and I. What what's what make those people who take action? And are you afraid? Like, do you have any fears? Like, because you know, so many people have fears.
Well, fear is the number one thing that's holding most people back. The fear of, I'm going to succeed and I'm not going to be able to handle that success. Or the fear of failure, and what if everybody sees me fail and what will they think of me? Or what if I succeed and then I fail? What will they think of me?
Yeah, I have that too. I have that. Wait, but I'm asking you, like, do you have that fear?
Well, absolutely. I'm just like everybody else, man. I think like if you don't have that, then you have a superhero power. I think that even Tony Robbins and Gary V and Oprah and all these people that have achieved a higher level of success when it comes to the money aspect of things, that make us feel like maybe they're bigger than me and you. But when you sit down and talk with any of those people, they're not bigger than me and you. They don't look at themselves as being any more important than me or you. Um, they 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 understand. They have moments of fear. They understand. They have moments of doubt and self-doubt. But the thing is in the face of having fear, to step into fear. This is the one thing everybody knows to be true that's ever done it. Fear is like a mirage in the desert, and it looks like there's water and some shade over there, but when you get there, it's not even real. It's not there. And so a lot of these fears that we think is all, once again, it's a fucking lie, and it's a self-made imposed limitation. We put the limitation on ourselves because we're scared of the outcome. We're scared to get hurt, but most often we're scared if we succeed, if we fail, what will other people think about us? That's the number one thing. So that freezes people. That makes people do a couple things. We either run away from it, or we freeze and we don't do nothing, or we fight against it. Things we can't win. We'll never win. And actually, when we do that, it's the negative action that we take in that aspect that really does draw the line. Is, are you really learning or are you losing? Because I do believe you can be a failure and be a loser if you decide to choose not to learn and grow from the experiences where it doesn't always turn out the way you want it to. And here's what I've learned too. I like falling down. The faster I fall down and the more that I lose, So that means I have to take action a lot. The more I take action, the more failure I experience. But the more failure I experience, the more I learn. The more I learn, the less I fail. And now I become more successful more often than not. And I just try to give it more of a realistic flow of, let's just say I win 60% of the time and the other 40% I'm learning. And the key to it is, and even though you have the keys, and even though there's plenty of people that tell you what to do, the key is to step towards the fear. I don't want to call the girl because I think that she's going to say no because I'm going to ask her on a date. Well, that's a story that I've told myself before I ever even called. So most often I don't make the call. The key is make the call, explain to the girl before you even ask her out that you had some hesitations to call because you were letting fear get the best of you, and let the vulnerability of yourself be known. Let people know the vulnerable side. I'm scared to go forward because I'm worried that if I go forward, you're going to judge me, and that you're going, and I'm scared of that judgment. And what you will find is the people that you're allowing for you to be scared, or the reasons that you feel that you're being frozen in fear, when you step towards them, it all disappears. When you talk to the people that you feel afraid of talking to, what you will find is they had no idea that you felt this way, and they're glad that you said something about it, because now that they can be a part of helping you through that process. And a lot of the time too, they also were scared as well. And maybe sometimes they needed you to be the one to approach them. You know, sometimes the situation needs us to approach it. And I think that these things are being delivered to us to approach. I think the universe says, well, look, I'm going to give you a bunch of things to be afraid of so I can teach you the lesson of how to step into it. But we've also know, because we've talked about it here, that we've been born into a world that teaches us something completely different. If you're scared of something, or you're not good at something, comfortable, well, you don't have to do that. You know, there's all these alternatives to make you escape, to have to face the fear. And I wanted to say to face reality, but the reality is this. Reality is a lot like fear. It's a fucking illusion. So once you get into the fear and you realize, oh my God, it's an illusion. Oh, well, now what am I in? Well, now I'm in reality. And you realize reality is an illusion too. So what does that mean? What does that mean? It sounds crazy, right? It sounds a little crazy, but here's the truth. What it really means to me is this, that I've allowed all the illusions and the lies to be reality, and to be the fears that truly don't even exist. And now I'm sitting around on my couch wondering, damn, you're a millionaire. Why don't you have a wife and children and all of these things that I aspire to have in life and all this stuff? Well, the truth is I have 100% complete control of that. And if those are the things that I really want out of life, well, you know what I would do? I would get up and I would take action to do those things. But when I assess the situation, well, why don't I have $1 million? Why don't I have a wife and kids? When I answer that truthfully, yeah, I want $1 million. Who doesn't want $1 million? We all think if we had $1 million, our life would change and it would be better. But I know that that's a fucking lie. I know that $1 million isn't, it would change my life in some ways, but I could still have the same problems, and I could actually have worse problems. And that's the truth. So I don't need $1 million. I don't need it. Would I like it? Yes. Well, I also would like a wife and kids. This is something that I've been wanting for quite a while, because I want to share this life with somebody, and I want to raise kids up into this magnificent journey of creating a life of your own. But at the same time, when I look into that story, I want to have a wife and kids is because everybody around me, that's what you're supposed to do in society. You're supposed to get a wife and kids. It's part of the American dream. They've already created the dream for me before I was even born. And then my grandma, well, when are you going to get married? When are you going to have kids? When are you going to do this? And when are you going to, is this the girlfriend that's going to be? It's like everybody else wants that to be my story. And so I said to myself at some point, I want that to be my story too. And it does sound very nice. I got to admit it, it is a very lovely story to have. Who wouldn't want to grow old with somebody you love and have somebody by your side through the thick and thin and the sick and the health and the rich and the poor moments? Who wouldn't want that? Who wouldn't want to share that with somebody? But guess what? I could also live a life of sharing it with everybody. I could share it with the world. My grandma lives at a place right now where there's a ton of old people in there. And my grandma chooses not to socialize very often, so she stays in her little apartment and she doesn't go anywhere and do anything. But if I lived there, let me tell you, I wouldn't be her. I'd be downstairs dating. If I was 92, I'd be dating some of those girls that are 79 years old. You know, I would be dancing. They have happy hour every Friday where they have cocktail drinks. I'd be enjoying life. I'd be getting my walker and I'd be shuffling my ass down the street. I would be doing something. I'd be living it. I'd be living it up. Instead of like sitting around and living like you're old. There's so many people I know. I'm 42 right now. My grandma's 92. And that's a 50-year difference. I could live 50 more years and then reach my grandmother's age. There's people I already know right now that are my age and 10 years older. I have a lot of friends that are in their 50s. And they already kind of live like they're 52 years old. I mean, they already live like they're 92. They sit around, they talk about, oh, we're getting old now, you know? They're already getting their minds set up for dying. And they still have more than a whole nother life to live. Like, I've only lived 42 years. If I live to be as old as my grandmother, 92, that's 50 years. I haven't even lived 50 years yet.
You know, that's pretty amazing what you said, because I was thinking like what Earl Nightingale said, or what so many of people said, that people die at the age of 25, but they don't get buried till the age of 65. I know you heard this.
Absolutely. It's the truth, man. And we live the cruel part about it for ourselves is that we're so scared and we're so caught up in unconsciousness and being so afraid that we live the best parts of our life in misery and depression and entertaining the drama of everybody else's life that isn't even ours.
Right, but we shouldn't like explode. We should have like lived the life that we want to create, based on how we want to live, right? How we want to create life,
right?
Because right now, my generation are, even if you're talking about how your friends are acting like 92, but my friends or my generation, my peers, my classmates act as if they don't have no choice. They act like they're going to die soon, but they're so unconscious. They act like everybody else and they think like everybody else. They do like everything everybody else. But that's a boring life I don't want to live. Like,
that's what I love about you, Johnny, because that's another thing. When I watched like a YouTube video of yours, or maybe even a Facebook thing, over a year ago, you had so much excitement. You were like, you came out like with Kung Fu. You're like, whoa, you're like, and I was like, who is this guy? Like, I love this guy, man. Like, your energy was so contagious. It was like, I was like, wow, like he's unique, he's authentic. And that's what I really appreciate about you, because that's what I want people to be doing. The fact is you don't let those people ever get you conformed, man. Because everybody might say to you, well, why are you being crazy and wild and acting like that, Johnny? But you got to understand, Johnny, you got such a good message of your own to deliver to the world in the process of the things that you're going through, and the type of person that you are. I personally believe, a lot like myself, that in the future, I don't know what you're trying to do or what you're not trying to do, but you have the charisma and you have the experience through educating yourself and through doing these things with people, interviews. to be able to get on stage and talk about this stuff with people, to be able to go to a place where there's 500 people in there and say there's 10 speakers for the day and you're one of the speakers and you're talking about these things with people. You're bringing food for thought to the customer. You're letting them know, look at guys, this stuff is right in front of us, and we've got this generation that believes they're too old, and we've got this generation here that thinks that they have no choice, and you take your energy and you go, well, yeah, can't you see? And they're like, what the fuck is going on? But the thing is you grab their attention, and once you got people's attention, they're more inclined to listen to what you got to say. Now, it doesn't mean that people are going to believe in what you say, and it doesn't mean that people are going to go. Listen, and it doesn't mean that people are going to do what you say. But the truth is they need to hear what you have to say, because people like you and I, if we don't get up and start to speak about these things that are so important to you and me, those people that are unconscious and that live in a state of fear all the time, they'll never get the fuck out, man. They'll never be able to get out. They'll be caught into the matrix so horribly bad that they'll never take the pill that wakes them up. And the truth is even though me and you are more conscious and me and you are a little bit more awake than others, having fear is a normal feeling. It's okay to have that feeling, but it's very important to comprehend that fear, more often than not, is an illusion. And you have to recognize that danger in fear, Will Smith said that in a movie, but danger is very real. But fear is often things that never ever happen. Fear is in our head. Now, danger is, well, if you go over to the fire and you put your hand in the fire, you're going to get burnt. Well, that's a real danger, and we understand that in the reality that we live. But the fear of being burnt by a fire that you're not even around, or that fire might burn you if you get by it, that's an illusion, because we've all been around fire and it's never hurt us before. We turn on the stove every day and it's fire in its own sense. And we cook food and we're not worried about it. But if you worry about being burnt by the fire without ever being around the fire, you might as well just go fucking put your hand on the fire. I mean, you're basically living it already without having to experience it. You're already it's like, that's the thing too with negativity and being unconscious. You're living in a cage, but you're not in real prison. You're free as a bird to flaunt. You could fly around the world, you could go anywhere, but you decide to stay in this one small little town. And in that little small town that you stay in your little apartment, and you go to your little job, and you go to your little car, and you stay caged in your mind. And you never get to experience the beauty of life.
Right.
You never go to a free dance class and learn to tango. You never go to the karaoke bar and sing. Even if you can't sing, you get up there and you're shaking and you just sing the song as good as you can. And even if it's shitty, you faced your fear and you said, it's okay. I'm okay. The thing is, I'm okay. I am okay. I thought that if I went and I sang karaoke, everybody would say, God, you can't sing very good. And that may be the truth. But nobody hates me. Nobody doesn't want me to not sing another song. Everybody clapped. Everybody was happy that I was brave enough to get up there, because a lot of us aren't brave enough to get up there. And that's just simple karaoke. That's just karaoke. I mean, every single person, even if they're a bad singer, we all hum in the shower, sing in the shower. Everybody sings when somebody isn't looking. But by God, even in the car, I'll sing away. But if somebody comes up alongside, I find myself I make like I'm not doing anything, and then they pass by and I'm singing again. But why do I care? That person can't even say anything to me. They could just give me a dirty look. They can't even hear me, but I'm already reacting to the fear of people's judgment of me.
Right.
What if I'm singing in the and that's why I liked your introduction of it's like, here's a guy that's just letting go. He's just letting go. And then he gets into the video, and then he gets into what he's getting all that negative, or well, sometimes it's not even negative. It's just sometimes when we're a little fearful, our knees begin to shake and we get a little anxious. And sometimes if you go, yeah, you let it out. You let all that energy out. And now you can start to ask a real good question in the interview.
But
I don't know. It's just a theory.
yeah. But no, well, I listen, no, because I listened to how to do an interview really good. Is that, yeah, you were right. It's just that because I don't want to build tension, and in order to make a really good interview, I must be able to make people laugh or be able to let them relax, and we can like talk as a conversation, have a deep connection, you know. Because I think that so many people are so shallow, you know, they text but they don't give you like deep emotion that, you know, a relationship take time and it's supposed to be, you know, personal connection, right? So my thing is, to speaking of your what am I trying to do with all these interviews and what I'm trying to do is my vision is this. I got kicked out when I was in high school, right? Because I skipped too many school. And I'm a college dropout because I don't believe in education that most people believe. I hate school for what it is. And as you know, we were special ed kids, and that um, didn't school believed intelligent, meaning they they already put you in IQ, right? They test you based on a piece of paper, but that wasn't your true intelligence. That wasn't your full potential that you could have been given to the world. So for me, I want to show people that you don't need school, you don't need education, you don't need to network at college. You can network in online, like you and I are doing. And I want to be able to express that even if I'm fearful of all the things that people say I cannot do, I still go toward my fear because in doing that I grow as a person, and in that fear I learned something. And that's this year alone I have experienced something that most people will never experience because I did something that most people didn't do. And that's here my message to the world. That's go ahead.
That is awesome, Johnny, man, and I'm so proud that you've done it. Like, that is a great accomplishment to achieve, my friend.
Yeah, I know, and that's why I'm interviewing you right now because like this is why I want you. Because when I was listening to you, right, I saw your because I was looking you smiled like you like I thought you see that, right?
I do. I love to giggle and laugh, and I'm always laughing at my own. I laugh at myself all the time, kind of like that's what crazy people do too. Huh?
No, but
I think I'm hilarious, man.
But I want to connect with you though because it's been a long time. Oh,
Well,
but go ahead, go ahead.
yeah. Well, it's cool too because honestly, when we did our first interview the very first time, I was very nervous and fearful too. And like now, you know, we've done this like 2 or 3 times, and we talk back and forth online a little bit, and like I feel comfortable talking with you and stuff. So for me, it's very easy to do this. But recently, when my grandfather passed away, the pastor had given everybody an opportunity to come up to say something in my grandfather's behalf, or if you wanted to say something, and nobody got up to say anything. And so I basically went up there, and I was the only one in the family to do so. And same thing at my dad's funeral too. I was the only one that got up to say anything. But anyway, at my grandpa's funeral, I got up there, and I'm used to speaking in front of people. Like, I don't have any problem talking to a crowd of people or anything like that. But my knees were shaking like I was in a windstorm of ice chill, man. I was like, I was so nervous. I had to put my sunglasses on because honestly too, I thought I was going to cry. And so I said it was just easier for me to put my sunglasses on and I could look at everybody a little easier. But I was so nervous. My hands were shaking. My knees were shaking together, clanking against each other. And I just started to talk. And I mean, I was nervous as hell. And these are people I've known my whole life. And it was just, but what it really was, it was a moment of opening up my heart and sharing the vulnerability about the way I felt about my grandfather. but just to know the fear that a person can have trying to go forward to face the world, no matter who it is, whether it's your family and you know them every day, or it's somebody that you know online. I really don't even know where I'm going, except for the fact that it's just kind of part of that fear basis, is like we allow the fear to hold us back from doing things we want. And I remember asking people in my family, how come nobody got up to say anything? But the truth was, is they all wanted to too, but they allowed fear to not let them do that. And I feel for me, one way that I've also allowed fear to not be a major factor for me is when you realize when you don't do something that you wish you did later, you regret it. So if I let fear of getting up and speaking to my family about how I feel about my grandpa that had passed away, if I didn't take that opportunity and it was presented to me, I would have regretted that. And that regret would have actually weighed heavier on my shoulders my entire life, because I would never have an opportunity again to do that with my grandpa. Well, most opportunities in life, we have a second chance. We can go down to the place to get a job. We can go ask forgiveness from somebody that's still alive. We can go get a better job. We can go get a better education. We can change the relationship we're in. But when it comes to death, there is no going back from that. And you don't get an opportunity to make a difference. And so regret and fear go hand in hand. And these things start to pile on each other too, you know? If you start to have a lot of regret and you have a lot of guilt, these things start to stack on each other and they weigh heavy on you. And shit, after a while, you could be somebody that's not scared of anything, but you have so much guilt and resentment and regret built up that too can hold you back from moving forward in life. That too can generate a lot of negativity that keeps you in a place that you can't move forward.
Wait, how about the also
I'm just
emotion? Sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead. What do you mean?
No, I mean like also I believe that because during 2011, 2012, I was letting my uh, hurtful emotion, it was trap, you know, and the hurt emotion and trap was also carried to the present, and it create my reality, and therefore it become my future. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, absolutely. Well, that's just basic law of attraction, man. So here's another way of saying it. A lot of people say, I need to get out of here and go somewhere else. Like, I need to leave this town so life can be different. But here's the thing people need to realize. You take you everywhere you go. So you could live in New York and have a horrible life and move to San Francisco or wherever, and you'll have a horrible life there too. Because you're bringing the same energy with you. You're bringing the same thinking with you. You're bringing the same emotional vibrational belief system. Because your emotions are really your EGS, your emotional guidance system. We all have it. Everybody has it, but most of us, we don't listen to it at all. But it says that wrong turn, go back another block, wrong turn, recalculating. It's constantly trying to recalculate our destination to get us to where we need to go, that we want to go. But if you're not consciously aware of that, and you don't realize that your emotional is the guidance system that is allowing you which way to go, and is it the right way to go, it's hard to really understand what's going on. And it's easy for us to allow our emotions to control us. And then you allow your emotions to blame everybody else, and it just becomes a fucking, yeah, it's a snowball effect. Everything goes along with it. That emotion leads to the choices that you make that lead to the regret and the guilt and the resentment and all this shit that leads to you having to forgive and forget and let go. But all of it also is a process that leads people, once again, I'm going to say it, man, all of it's designed to lead you back to the inner journey. Like Joseph Campbell says, you know, it's a journey, man. And we're all actually on the hero's journey. The hero journey is our own life. We are the hero of the story of our life. But we just don't realize that. And all the movies that we watch are trying to tell, they all say the same story. It's always somebody starting off on some path that leads to them where they have to overcome some sort of obstacle of whatever that leads them to the answer or leads them to the outcome of the understanding. And we're all on the same goddamn journey.
Right.
We're all living in the Matrix. I mean, that's a good example because in the Matrix too, what you realize about Neo in that movie was when he took the pill that woke him up to reality, when it woke him up to the fact that he realized, wow, there is a Matrix. What he discovered was he had unlimited potential. His potential was so unlimited, it was infinite potential. But when he took the other pill and he decided to be in the world that I tell you that's like the simulator, the potential there's limited. Why? Because everybody there's telling you that it is, and that you accept that to be the reality. But when you step outside of that shit, the potential of everybody is so unlimited. And you know what? There's so many examples that you can go on YouTube and pull up people that are in wheelchairs and people that have real problems that you and I don't have, okay? And these people are magnificent, just magnificent beings, and the things that they do, the things that they say, the things that they accomplish, because they don't allow what most people's reality of that whatever it is to have the same meaning to them. So just because they were maybe born with something that was a crippling disease, they said, but I'm not crippled. It's like when a black man says, well, I'm not a black man. My name is John Simpson. And they go, well, what the hell are you talking about? Look at your skin's black. He says, but black is not who I am. John Simpson is who I am. You're just judging me on the color of my skin. Or you're judging me based off, I'm in a wheelchair and that I'm supposedly not supposed to be able to run this mile because I'm in the wheelchair. But watch me get out of this fucking wheelchair and watch me run this mile. Now, I might run the slowest mile in the world, but I'm going to run it, motherfuckers, and you ain't going to hold me back. And there was something that you said, and me and you have said, and when you were talking a little earlier about that me and you have both been in special ed. That really rang to me when you said it, but I let my mind quiet because I wanted to listen to you, what you were saying. And often I have the ability to try to talk while you're talking. And I'm trying to work better at listening to people. So it's a communication and it's an actual interview instead of me just talking the whole damn time, right? But me and you from the beginning, we didn't realize it, but I can see it clearer and clearer now when this word special education comes up. Those people in school were damn right about you and me and anybody else that they have in special education. What that meant was that we're special. And it didn't mean that we were bad, like special is bad. Like, let's just say, a lot of people say, well, people that are in special education are retarded. What, were you retarded? Are you retarded dumb? You don't understand what's going on? Are you retarded? Well, no, special education means I'm special. And here's the thing. I'm so special that I'm not on the same educated level as everybody else. I don't learn like the sheep learn. It doesn't mean that I can't. Actually, I learn what the sheep learn very easy. It's not even challenging to me. That's why it's boring. That's why I'd rather go to a different class that's special, because there I'm dealing with people that supposedly got problems, and now this becomes more of an interesting system of learning. And the truth is me and you are special educators. We're not children that are special and retarded that need special education so we can understand what's going on. We can comprehend things even the fucking teacher don't even understand. Even the professor doesn't understand. We are special educators, and we need a special educating from other people that are special educators that are older than us. People that can be gurus, people that can be mentors. And for me, W.a.d.e Dyer, Louise Hayes. Now, she just recently passed away, and Dwayne Dyer has been passed away. But these people are people that I can tune into life through YouTube videos and through the social media that understand exactly what the fuck I'm talking about right here and right now. They know what I'm saying to you, and they know that you understand. They know the meaning of what I'm saying here. And there's plenty of special education. Well, to anybody out there that somebody says, "Oh, you're in special ed," I would say thank you. I'm sorry you don't even understand what that means right now. And honestly, I don't either, but I know it's not bad. It's actually probably one of the best things that ever happened to me. And until I can get around people that understand it, that can explain it to me properly, where I'm not being put down as a retard and being criticized as somebody that doesn't know like everybody else. Because the fact is I know more than you guys know. And I have some valuable information because the way I learn, I'm gathering stuff that you guys are missing completely. I mean, you guys, I mean, honestly, man, that's why we can understand and be open, like physics and stuff like that, and people that study the possibilities and that are actually that realize there's parallel universes. There are scientists out there and people that are studying shit, and they know what he knows and what I know and what a lot of other people know that are just special ed and just regular people. We know that the infinite so grandiose that well, it's infinite. Shit. I mean, it's like it's so much to fathom that we almost need to be stupid down. It's so big that we need to dumb it down. And they've dumbed it down to a certain way that they've made it retarded. They call it special ed.
Yeah.
And it's not. Go ahead.
Sorry. No, for me, I changed the way how I look at things, but actually, I think that special education have more gift to the world and stuff. Because really, to be honest with you, like most of, because I hear a lot about Bob Proctor. He always say even if people have straight A's, but they're working for C student or D student as an entrepreneur, right? And that's really amazing me. But for me, special education is that we're special as a human being, that we're important, and we are important. It's just that I remember back then when I was in high school, this kid, I still remember very vividly. I misspelled a word and he laughed at me. I was like, "Whoa, it's just a word. Like I can like re-look that and remember. You don't have to re-laugh at me. That's not right." But the thing is, I bet you that he's probably out there unconscious living the life that he could have been living. But education, as Napoleon Hill, he take out educate. Educate is to bring out to develop from within, because school they put information in, but they never. True education is supposed to be able to pull out something that you never had before, your potential, your awareness, your thinking, and that to change behavior to get the result that you want. But school didn't do that. School just regurgitate facts and figures, right?
Oh yeah. And when you're not doing it like everybody else, then they point that out. And the kid that says to you, "Hey, you didn't spell that right," somebody did that to him, and he learned that. And then he practiced what he learned that somebody did to him. He practiced that learning to you. You know what I'm saying? He learned that behavior. He doesn't even know what he believes or whatever. Somebody taught him all of that stuff. You know what I mean? It's like he even from a small age. That's the sad part that saddens me, is because even let's just say we're in this 3rd or 2nd grade, it's already going on at that age. Kids that are 6 years old are already bullying kids. At 6 years old, there's kids being bullied at 6 years old. I mean, that's little kids, man. That's like little kids.
Yeah, you know what's funny? I when I was a kid, I was bullied actually. So, yeah, that's because that's why I that's why I don't. That's why sometimes I remember back in high school, I stood up for someone who was bullied. It was, I don't know. I guess I had too much testosterone back then, but still, I don't like people being bullied. But yeah, go ahead.
No, well, I agree with you. I'm glad that you stood up for somebody.
Yeah. But before we get off topic, I would want to know, when you create this book, you created, how did you feel? And before you say to the audience, I would like to know, like, what is the path of becoming an author, and how what you should like start, or how you know, what's the methodology that you should start becoming an author?
Well, the key, if you want to become an author,
Yeah.
the first thing you need to be doing is you need to be writing all the time. Write down your ideas, writing down the stories that are in your head that you feel creative about, writing down your experiences in life. Maybe even write about other people's experiences in life. You just got to be writing. And the more that you write, the more you'll get better at it, and you'll find your purpose within writing too. I think each subject we can find our purpose and where we're good and what we do well in at different things, you know. And those things will also change in time as you experience one thing towards, you know, it's like a purpose. You can go towards a purpose, and when you fulfill your purpose and you fulfilled it, then what's next? Well, you're going to have another purpose to go for. It's just like a dream. Once I fulfill a dream, I'm going to have another dream to go chasing. Otherwise, what happens? So we need those things in front of us to keep looking forward. Well, that keeps the journey of life living, you know. That's the excitement of life and stuff, you know.
Right. I
Uh,
should agree with that. Right. That's
uh,
what makes life so wonderful living. It's just that, like, you can become anything that you want. I don't know why people just like like mold them into something that they don't want to be. Like, that's icky feeling, man. Oh man.
well, because I'll tell you why. It's because it's the easiest thing to do, even though it's the most uncomfortable feeling in the world. And what happens is, after you stay in that uncomfortable feeling of letting somebody else mold you into whatever it is, after a while we grow up and we're like, who the hell am I? You don't even know. You almost have to have a nervous breakdown to rebuild yourself and to relearn who the hell you are. I think that's why a lot of Christian, I mean, this is just a theory, of course, but you know, there's a theory, there's a lot of people in Christianity are reborn again. I'm reborn again. Well, what does that mean? Well, to me, it's the process of letting who you used to be go to become a version of something new. You know? I don't know. About being an author, you have to write all the time, guys. You have to be writing all the time. And then for me, the way that this book came about, it wasn't like I was planning to write a book. But as I was going on the inward journey, a lot of this stuff, like I said, was just stuff that was rising to the surface, and I was writing it down. And it was stuff that was coming out of me, but then I would be vibrationally drawn to, like synchronicity. I would be drawn to a video, and all of a sudden I'm listening to Bob Proctor and he's saying the same thing. And I'm like, what the hell? It's like, here I am experiencing something from the inside, but then there's great teachers in the world that are saying the exact same thing, right? So with that being said, I just continued to write stuff down. And then I started to realize that I needed to set goals and have vision of what it is that I want to achieve. So I said, now W.a.d.e Factors wasn't a book yet, but I wanted to write a book. And it's actually was the W.a.d.e Factors, actually I wanted it to be called Thoughts, Feelings, and Actions. Because it's all based about our thoughts and our feelings and in our actions anyway. This is what's producing the life that we're living. Our thoughts, our feelings, and our actions. So, but I just continued, and I put up on a dream board that I wanted to write 5 books in the next 5 years. And W.a.d.e Factors was the first book. And I literally had started to write all the chapters. And I had them all in this little binder, and I wrote it. And the next thing you know, I shoved that binder in some sort of box somewhere, and it got shuffled to the back of my closet with a bunch of other stuff that I had written on. But this was an actual book. Everything else was like a poem or thoughts that I just had about something. maybe a quotation that I thought up in my head and wrote down. But this W.a.d.e Factors was an actual book. It just needed to be edited. And in the process, I reached out to some people to try to have it edited, and I just never really had any success at that time because I wasn't vibrationally aligned, number one. I had a lot more work to do to get myself in the area of feeling like I was even worthy to have a book published, which a lot of people, this won't apply to, because a lot of people already don't have that problem of feeling worthy, but a lot of people just aren't writing, you know. Another thing, what I was doing during the process, I began to get better in my worthiness to believe that I could produce a book, and I started to look into self-publication. But during the process of that, of looking into self-publication, I was going to have my work being edited anyway. So I started to look for an editor at that time. So what happened was, let me just explain this real quick and try to bring it up to speed. So I had written the book, and I would have had it published a year or 2 years earlier, but I wasn't vibrationally aligned for it. And so I had to do some more work, more inner work. And that allowed me to become more aligned. And then that aligned me back into my book a couple years later. That book came back out of the box, and I said, here it is. And I said, well, this could be something. Then I reached out to find editors again. I found an editor. I found 3 people that said that they would edit the book for me. I sent that book out to 3 people, and within 20 minutes, one of the people was calling me back, asking me questions about the first chapter. Hey, what do you mean by this when you're saying this right here? And they were trying to get the vision of what I was trying to say from the vision of my view of it. Because sometimes people read stuff and they have their own perspective. And so they wanted to make sure when they rewrite my book for me, they didn't rewrite it, but they just added some words and they helped clean it up. Like, it's because I don't really have very good spelling or punctuation. I don't really even see punctuation or spelling right. I could read, and I don't care about I don't see periods and all of that stuff. I just can read and it all makes sense to me. But for everybody else, if they don't have a period or an exclamation mark or apostrophe, or if the word is misspelled, if the there, or there is a different word, they can't put it together, and I can.
It's because.
So this. Go ahead.
No, it's
No,
because. It's because school has trained them that way. Like, if you think about it, like, school trained your mind to become not as an entrepreneur, but more like a worker, more like a slave to the system, actually, more like a robot, more like a zombie. There you go, a zombie. And if you can, like, go back to the past, and if you can see that when you were in English class, what did they teach you? Well, they throw a bunch of vocabulary words, and they try to, well, it's how I experience it. It's where they throw a vocabulary word, like 10, and you have to remember them, except they didn't teach you how to remember it to turn it into short-term memory to long-term, except when it basically we have to repeat it on a test, but then we forget it to get an A.
Yeah. It seems like a flawed system to me. I mean, I know what 2 + 2 is, so they did teach me that. 2 + 2 is 4, and I know how to spell, like, B-U-T and T-H-E and all the basic words, as, if, you know, whatever. But yeah, so when I started to reach out for editors that second time, now 2 years later, I was actually more aligned to it. And so these 3 people, I submitted my book to them, and this one individual out of the 3 called me right away, and that person was like the angel. His name is Tony Dodd. He's my editor. He's actually edited another story of mine that's in another book called Resilient. It's about surviving to thriving. It's about childhood abuse and people that have overcome childhood abuse. But Tony he's my friend for a long time, and he just had a better understanding than most people of just how I think. he had dealt with me in a lot of different ways. We've had a lot of debates and arguments about different subjects that we didn't agree on. And he just had a real good way of seeing things through my eyes. And I was very proud of him. I was very proud that he's just such a talented man. He's just a great individual. And I got to admit, there's times I didn't see eye to eye with him at all in life. And there's times I didn't even want to be friends with him because he had a tendency of being pretty negative quite often too, or at least seeing the negative side of life. But he's so damn intelligent. It is just it doesn't compare to the intelligence I have. He's just smart in a whole nother way, you know. But it just all started to come together. And then what happened was, as I'm having this thing edited, the laws of the universe, the law of attraction, opened the door of some lady that was already in my friend network that had been there the whole time. She'd probably been in my friend network for at least 4 years, and we have never even said one word to each other. But I became in alignment with my inner self and with the goals that I had set for myself and the dreams that I had visioned for myself and the things that were on my dream board that I looked at every day, and I knew that I could accomplish it. I knew I could achieve these things. I just didn't know how. And I had to build up the belief that I was worthy of it. Hard the beliefs that said that I couldn't, I was uneducated and all of those things. And the truth, I don't punctuate properly. I don't spell properly. There's a lot of things I don't do properly, but guess what? Just like you said, here's the book, man. So check it out. You know what I mean? So, but here's what happened. That lady that was in my friend circle for at least 4 years, her name's Kelly Fitzgerald. She and 3 other friends had started a publishing company about 2 years prior. And they were finally getting aligned with their publishing company where on the ball, and they were starting to publish more books, and they started to understand the business more. And these women are doing magnificent things, man. They got a magazine out called Path Magazine. They're just all about what me and you are about. They're all about just a positive life. And you know what? They're normal people too, like us. They have daily problems and they have daily things that go on, but they're out there achieving dreams. They might fail at some, they might achieve some, but they learn and they stay positive and they support each other. Whether anybody's doing the same thing as the other, that we all encourage each other to do good, and we know that you can do it. And so in the end, what happened was, I was going to try to go self-publishing, but a publisher presented themselves to me, and they said they were willing to take a look if I was to send them my book to them, and then they were going to make a decision whether or not that was something that they wanted to do or not. And through that process, I was welcome to be in a compilation book, and my story is in a book with 5 or 6 other stories. And then they decided to take my book on, and they said, well, we're going to publish your book too. We believe in what it says, and we believe in you. And they gave me that chance. And since then, all kinds of amazing things have happened to me. I've been on a lot of talk radios, different people that have different shows. I've been interviewed by people like yourself several times, and I've made a lot of really cool friends that I've actually haven't met in person, where I can give you a hug when I see you, but I feel like when I see you that you're my friend, and if you came into town right now, you could come to my house and stay here if you wanted. I believe in you. Like, you got a friend in me, and it's not going away. And I just, all these beautiful connections, and I have people too that I can talk to, and some people that can only take me for about 15 minutes because I can really talk and I have a lot to say and a lot of information that can be overwhelming for a lot of folks. And then I've got other people like yourself. I know we're in an interview, but there's people that I call and talk to, and sometimes a normal conversation with us is easy, an hour and a half, and it feels like 15 minutes. There's other people I talk to for 3 hours, and it's like, oh my God, I can't believe 3 hours is already gone by, and we're not even like ready to stop. Like, we could go for another 3 hours, just because the conversation and the level of conversation and where our consciousness is at this moment, it's really infinite conversation. Like Tony Robbins, he says, I could talk for 72 hours straight. Tony Robbins could have a seminar for 2 weeks straight and never take a break. He has so much knowledge and information upstairs and so many ways to convey the information to you. He could talk for fucking days and never stop. For days, explaining how it works, explaining what you need to do to break the cycle. He just knows in a very depth details of all the different, I mean, there's so many little realms that you need to master. You know what I mean? But the first realm you need to master is your inner realm. And that'll allow you to expand to the outer comprehension of all these different variables and the contrast that life throws at you and how to deal with it and how to react to it. I'm telling you, dude, I used to react everything like everybody else. Negatively, I would blame everybody. I would want to tell my story of I'm a victim. This is why I behave the way I do. And this is why I behave badly. And I wanted to attack everybody. And I just had a whole lot of anger and so mad at everybody for everything that ever happened in my life and your life and everything that ever bad. And I was pissed off and I couldn't do, and I'm still very passionate. People can tell, like my veins will bulge out of my neck and I need to learn to breathe and take a breath. You don't have to say it all in one breath. Breathe, and it's okay to pause and think for a second. And I'm doing so good. Things would bother me forever. Somebody would do something, it would just bother me forever. I would think about it for months on end. Now I just get over things. I just move on. Bad things happen, and guess what? It sucks. But that's just the way it goes, and it already happened, so I can't change that. And so I just move forward. And I do my best to respond as healthy as I possibly can. Some things you are going to get upset and angry with, but I don't allow to be there for very long. I might allow myself 5 minutes to be really fucking mad about it, and then I move the fuck on. And if the memory visits me, because sometimes things will come back up, so maybe I don't like the way that worked out, so it keeps visiting me. Well, that just gives me practice to continue to shift my mind, to strengthen it, to say, that's what I call mind exercise. So now when life presents me in the future with things that might make me mad, instead of me being pissed off for 5 days, now I'm only mad for 5 minutes. There's some things that I'm like, shit, that stuff would have pissed me off in the past, but now I understand you're just very ignorant and you got a lot of problems. And that has nothing to do with me. So there's no reason for me to get mad, because if I get mad, that's really kind of what you want me to do too. When we live on a low vibration and we do a lot of fucked up things, we get a lot of attention from people. And even if it's negative attention, we're getting attention. And attention is more valuable than money. It's the one thing people want more than money is attention. I want people to pay attention to me. It really gives me a lot of value. And even if it's negative, people don't give a shit if the currency is negative or not. The currency is still the same. I'm getting the attention. It feels good to get $100. It feels good to get 10, but it feels good to get 100. Imagine if somebody came up and gave you $1,000. That feels so damn good. It's in the same comparison of that, but just more on an emotional state of where little things used to cost $1,000 in my vibrational world. Now little things don't even cost 10 cents. All these little things that could irritate me, that would make me mad, they're actually free of charge. Fuck, man. I don't know, man. It just, all this inner work allows you to write a book. It allows a publisher to come to your existence. It allows the right people to unfold into your experience. And you and I know that we're creating our reality more often than not without even realizing what's going on. But if we take control of that and we understand how it works, you now understand that it's a process and an unfolding. And you allow that to happen with knowing that it's going to happen, with no doubt. Like, I do have a lot of fearless things within me because I know without a doubt 100, I mean, it's more than 100%. I mean, I would bet everything, and I would bet everything on it if I knew that the pay was going to come back, if somebody would take the bet. I know what I know to be so true because I've experienced it firsthand, and you have, and there's a shit ton of people that have too. And when you turn your perspective into that direction, and you're observing with conscious mind, and you can see it unfolding in front of you. I mean, this book right here is the story. I mean, I manifested this into a reality. This was just an idea on a board inside my room. I've got a GED. I can't spell or punctuate for the life of me. But guess what? That never stopped it from happening. It didn't stop from people believing in me. And even those people knew, because I wanted them to know my story. I don't have an education. I don't know how to spell properly. They said that shit doesn't matter to me. I believe in what you're talking about. I believe in what the book's saying. And we can get somebody to re-edit that. Even that was the beautiful part too. When I found the publisher too, even though I'd found the editor before, the publisher says, well, look, the cool thing about writing a book is you don't even have to write it. You could just talk your story into a recorder, and I could give those recordings to somebody, and they'll write that stuff down on a paper, and they'll write my story for me. So people that want to write a book and get one published, let me tell you something. I know that I say if you want to write a book, you have to be writing, and that is true. But the truth is too, you don't have to write. You could just get a recorder and you could make videos of your story. You could record your voice of what the story is that you want to tell, and you can send that off to somebody. There's people out there, and if you have a story, get a hold of me, and I will do my best to hook you up with the people I know that can make your dreams a reality when it comes to getting your book published.
Right.
So there's one answer right there. How do I get a book published, Wade? Get a hold of W.a.d.e Bloodgood, and W.a.d.e Bloodgood will get you hooked up with the people that helped me get my book published. And they'll be able to tell you exactly what they told me. And you will be amazed of all the different ways that you can go about writing a book without actually ever writing one. I mean, and you will take all the credit for that. And there's no shame in that. If you have a story to tell and somebody else can write that story for you, and it's the same message you're trying to convey, that's what's important. The message that you're trying to get out is that you're getting it out. A lot of the time we let our ego step in the way, and we say, well, I want to take credit for that. And what if it becomes a #1 seller? I want to be a best-selling author, and I want people to look at me with the integrity of a best-selling author and stuff like that. Well, that's all great and dandy, and we all want that, but that's the ego talking. That's the ego that says, stroke me. I need that stroking, but that's just our ego, and it's a bunch of bullshit. It really doesn't matter if I get the credit or not for W.a.d.e Factors or not, but the truth is, I did write the book, and I have to give credit where credit is due. My editor, Tony Dodd, and my publisher, Kelly Fitzgerald, and Leah Freeday, that did the artwork, that did everything on the outside and on the back for me, and all the anything that's on the inside there. These people were amazing, and they were co-creators of the process. W.a.d.e couldn't write this book alone. In order to get a book written and published, it's a process that takes more than one person. And even when you self-publish, it's not like you're doing it on your own. You still have to go through the editing process. You're still dealing with the people that are self-publishing. You know what I mean? Like, there's a company that offers you to self-publish, but it all goes through them too. So you're always doing it with somebody else, whether you think you are or not. But you have to be prepared for a few things. When you go to get your stuff edited, it costs money. Unless you have somebody that's in your circle that's willing to do that for free, which a lot of us do. We have plenty of friends that are smart enough to edit something. And a lot of time too, it's good to have your material edited. If you've already got the material down the way that you want it, and nobody's rewriting anything or rewording anything for you or putting in words that you didn't put in, and you just need somebody to look at punctuation and spell change, it's very easy to go out and find somebody or to have more than one person do it for you. That way you have more than one result of the editing of the same thing. But it costs money. You know, some people do it 15 cents a letter or 15 cents a word or 25 cents a word. So it costs some money. And I would say, you know, depending on how big your book is, you have involved in it. But I would say a smaller book, maybe 500 words, 500 pages and under, it wouldn't cost you more than 2,500, maybe, yeah, 2,500 to get something like that done right now. Maybe maximum 3,500 to get done. And the process, the wheel, once you put the money down, and some of this too, I don't know how they all work, but there's steps and stages. It's like right now we're in this stage, editing stage, and this is the amount of money we need from you right now. Well, now the next stage is we're getting the cover done, and we're getting everything, because when you submit your writing and everything, it has to be broken down so it can be in the book form, you know? Because when you get your writings and you have the chapters, it still isn't laid out like a book. So they have to format it. That's the word. And so you're paying for steps and stages. You're paying first stage editing, next stage formatting and getting the artwork and getting any illustration done. And then the final payment is, once all of that's done, then the publishing takes place. And then then you make your final payment. Then publishing is done. They get a hold of you and say, your book is ready. They let you know that your book is on Amazon.com, that it'll be out in Barnes and Nobles, and that it's going to be, they'll let you know where it's going to be released. But Amazon.com is number one. They put it out there first. And they work with Barnes and Nobles. And then they also do their best to help with some of that publishing money to help advertise you and to get your book out there in the market so people know about it to buy the book. Because listen, a publishing company is only as successful as the books that they publish that sell. A publishing company can publish thousands of books, but if none of those books sell, the publishing company doesn't make any money. The author doesn't make any money. Nobody makes any money. And so publishing companies really do have a valued interest into making sure that the books that they publish, they feel are valuable enough to put on a shelf and that people will buy them. That's why in the past, publishing was very hard to get into. And then once they started to create self-publishing and big publishing companies realized, well, wait a minute, people can kind of go off and do it on their own. We don't want those people to do that because we want to get a little bit of their money. We want part of the royalty that comes off the sales of this stuff. So they became a little bit more open to take a little bit more of a client that was what they might feel is a risk. And what I mean by that is somebody that they believe has really good material, but they're not too sure how the public's going to take it. You know what I mean? And they say, but you know what? We believe in the material enough that we believe that the audience that we're trying to target, they'll believe in it too. So we're going to take a chance on this individual. And a lot of the time, some of their best-selling books that they ever had and some of the best authors that are known today are those people that they took that chance on. I mean, look at the lady with Harry Potter. She tried to get that shit, like it was like 12 or 13 different publishing companies that turned her down. But she never gave up. And now she's like one of the biggest, she's made one of the most money that there is in the book industry, man. And they've made movies out of the books and they've done all kinds of things, you know? It's the possibilities of what is in the world of co-creating with other people. And if we don't set our limits, then the sights that we can see are limitless. And the potential that you can achieve is just that. It's limitless. You just have to step into the fear and do the inner work. And then what will happen is life will start to bring the answers to explain what's going on. Because even like with you shedding skin and shedding parts of yourself and overcoming certain emotional aspects, you have been drawn to people like Bob Proctor. You've been drawn to interview people like me. the universe saw you changing and a part of you being born or reborn or revitalized, resurrected, really. You came back to life, and the real Johnny that was always there, that somebody tried to make him feel like he was less of a person or that he was dumb and deserved to be in special education, which isn't a bad thing. It took all of this time, and now you're rediscovering yourself. And with that, now you have high potential, you know, because now you're stepping in your proper path. It's going to get all of your dreams to, I believe what happens is once you get more aligned, the process of things start to happen way faster. It can take 10 years or it could take 10 minutes, man. It's crazy how it works, but it only works for the people that are working it. You can't get any rewards from a system that you're not working every day. And sometimes I don't meditate, and sometimes I don't think properly, and sometimes I allow my emotional, I don't make the best emotional choices. And when I do that, I can see that things ain't working out for me. And it's just a sign from God and the universe or my emotional guidance system that I need to change what I'm doing and to rearrange what I'm thinking to get the results I'm looking for.
Right. Where can we find you? Wade.
Well, you can find me on Facebook at just W.a.d.e Bloodgood on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram at the W.a.d.e Bloodgood Journey. You can also get a hold of me at W.a.d.e Bloodgood at outlook.com. Or you can get a hold of me too at charityheroes at outlook.com. I also have a Twitter account, but I'm not really doing anything with it, and I don't even look at it. So, but and I'm also on YouTube too with the W.a.d.e Bloodgood Journey. And I'm actually about to launch a whole bunch of YouTube channels, dude. Like I realized that W.a.d.e Bloodgood Journey is one thing, and that I can talk about my journey, and I can talk about law of attraction, and I can talk about that aspect, and that's one channel. Just one channel and one aspect, but I'm going to have channels that have to do with me out in nature and me doing a lot of other things that don't have to do with it, and have separate channels because I want to target a lot of different audiences. And once people are drawn into the character that is W.a.d.e, they're more inclined to listen to other things that W.a.d.e has to say.
Right. I get that. Thank you so much for
You know what I mean?
yeah. Thank you so much for doing this interview. You guys check them out. Subscribe to my channel, like my video.